Happy Blackbirders Week. My name is Ariel and I am so glad you are here today. If this is your first time celebrating Blackbirders Week, thank you so much for choosing to learn about it with me and the National Museum of African American History and Culture. I have a question for you all. What do you like to do outside? Do you ride a bike or go on walks? Do you play games outside or go to the beach? Do you like to bird watch? Being outside and enjoying nature is for everybody, and that's what Blackbirders Week is all about. This week, Black people who love birds are celebrating and sharing this favorite activity and talking about what makes being a Blackbirder unique. We are also inviting all kinds of people to learn about bird watching and why it brings us joy, but also encouraging you to find what you love to do in nature, whether that's bird watching or something else. I am really hoping that after today's program, you'll know something new about birds and you may want to try bird watching wherever you live. So I invited a special guest to join us today to teach us a little something about birds. May you please welcome my friend Sheridan Alford with a big round of applause.
Thank you
Hi,
so much.
Sheridan.
Thank you, Ariel. How are you?
I'm well. How are you today?
Lovely, lovely.
Good. Thanks so much for being here with us. Sheridan is an environmental educator and a Black bird watcher, and I thought Sheridan would be a perfect special guest to join us today because she loves birds. She really loves to teach other people about bird watching, and she is one of the founders of the Black Birders Week celebrations that started in 2020. Sheridan, I'm hoping that today you're going to be able to help us figure out the answer to a question I have for you. Do you think you
Definitely.
might be able to? Okay.
I will do.
So, one question I have is how do birds get all of their colors? I have seen birds of all different colors. And what about you, friends? Have you seen a red bird before? Or maybe a blue bird before? Or a yellow one? Or an orange one? Or a brown one? Birds come in all different colors, and I was wondering how that happens. Why don't all birds just look exactly the same, and how can they just have so many different colors? Sheridan, how do birds get all those amazing colors?
Well, Ariel, that is a great question. So, to explain this, I'm going to go into two methods that birds use to get their colors, and then how these benefit them, and how they come about. So, the first one we're going to talk about is melanin. Now, I'm going to give everyone some scientific terms so they can all sound smart to their friends when you tell them. So, melanin or melanocytes, which are the cells that in your body that create melanin. These are the colors that birds are able to produce on their own. You might know someone else who has melanocytes, which are humans. So we also have these same type of cells. And this is how we create the different beautiful shades and skin tones that you all see within your families and friends. Birds use these kind of in the same way. So melanocytes create the patterns, whether we have dark hoods, like the hooded warbler. And he uses this hood for attracting mates or showing territory. It's a great way for birds to kind of show their stuff, if you would say. So melanin is the first one.
Okay.
Now,
One thing I wanted, so you're saying that melanin is something that humans also get their skin colors from,
yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, so I guess our skin colors and feathers can get lighter or darker sometimes because of how much or how little melanin is in it.
Yes. So
Okay,
how
okay,
much melanin are your melanocytes creating? Um,
okay,
so
okay.
some birds are brown, like our owl friend. Then we have those darker birds like crows. Then you have some lighter browns like your starlings or your warblers. So just different shades, just like you and me.
Cool. I also heard that melanin can make birds, maybe some of their wings feathers like stronger. Is that true?
So it does have properties in increasing bone structure.
Okay.
It also kind of affects their eye color sometimes. If you ever seen a bird with a red eye versus like a traditional black eye. So melanin plays a lot of different parts, not just in patterns, but also some of the other characteristics of your normal birds.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Of course, of course. So the second method of coloration that we are going to talk about comes from, let's see, I think they're food. They're food. So food plays a big part in everything that we do, everything that birds do, all the animals. Um, the food pigments that birds get are called carotenoids.
Hmm.
So we're going to give some examples. As you can see here, these are some birds that get their pigment from their food, like the northern cardinal, our flamingo friend, the American goldfinch. Um, does anybody know how or why, or have you heard why flamingos are pink? Or maybe how these goldfinches get so yellow? If you haven't, carotenoids are, yeah, because they eat so much shrimp. There you go. Uh, so flamingos specifically, they eat a lot of shrimp. These shrimp are pink, and then they turn pink. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Good job. So carotenoids are pigments that that come in yellows, oranges, reds, and oftentimes birds get these from yellow flowers or red tomatoes, seeds that they eat. Birds love to eat plants, so that's how they kind of ingest and take in all these pigments. Goldfishes are a great example of this. They love to eat seeds off of these thistle flowers, which is this purple flower here. These seeds have a lot of carotenoids in them, and they can produce colors like yellow and orange. And then the more the finches eat, the more yellow they become. Uh,
You wouldn't think that a purple flower would turn a bird yellow, but it's the seeds inside of the purple
the
flower
seed,
that's, uh-huh. That's pretty
definitely.
cool. All right, what's our next bird? Our next
So
is,
to get into kind of what the Burke family told us. Our flamingos and our roseate spoonbills are next. So both of these are very vibrant pink birds, right? Roseate spoonbills are often found in kind of like South Georgia, Florida, and then flamingos, of course, you can see in a lot of zoos. They both snack on brine and shrimp, and the shrimp eat the algae. So it's kind of a chain. The algae has a lot of carotenoids in it, and that's kind of how they get pink. And then they eat the pink shrimp, and that turns our birds pink. This also allows birds to benefit from these pigments, and yeah, that's how they get that beautiful pink color. As you can see on this roseate spoonbill here, which his nose is shaped like a spoon, that's how he gets his name. You have varying shades of pink. So this is how their body is processing those carotenoids. Oftentimes you'll see flamingos that are kind of white, maybe they're a little pale pink. Like I said, how much shrimp you eat would constrict to how much pink you have. So there's a direct correlation there. And then next we have our lovely, vibrant northern cardinal. So the northern cardinal benefits and is a native of the North Americas, East Coast, mostly maybe to the mid-range. But they eat native plants and berries that are most nutritional source of red pigment. So like, as you can see here, these berries kind of contribute to that bright red color. Unfortunately, we do have some non-native plants that look the exact same. And the birds, try and eat those, but they don't understand that they don't have the same nutritional value. So it's always important to try and plant native plants so that your birds can eat some good food that's good for them, but they also get some good color from them as well.
that's really interesting that even though it looks red, it may not actually help them
Mhm.
turn red. Now, I wanted to remind our friends out there that this is just how birds get their colors. people don't get their skin colors from the foods that they eat. And eating certain foods like chocolate or milk or strawberries or bananas is not going to turn our skin the same color as those foods. That's just something that happens to birds, and humans get our skin colors from melanin, like Sheridan was telling us about earlier.
Of course, of course. Yes, our bodies make those melanocytes naturally. So that is how we get our different shades. So I've told you a lot about the melanocytes. We have the carotenoids, what these different colors do. We have dark, browns, blacks, red, orange, yellow. So next we're going to look at a bird that kind of covers all of our bases, but figure out what contributes to what. So this beautiful piece of art here is a cedar waxwing. Now this cedar waxwing has some very important color points here. If someone can tell me which points correlate to what. So we have a mask, we have some tail feather colors, some wing feather colors. Which ones correlate with the carotenoids and which ones correlate with the melanin?
So which parts of the bird gets, maybe the cedar waxwing eats food that turns it that color, or it has melanin that's making it that color? That's a good question. I'm seeing a lot of brown and black. That's making me think that maybe the top part of the cedar waxwing is coming from melanin, but I'm also seeing a little red, a little yellow.
Yeah, we see a couple flashes of some bright colors on the bottom half.
So let's see which parts are from what. There we go.
Lovely. So we'll go from top to bottom. So that black kind of eye mask that cedar waxwings have, very distinct from the rest of their colors, which are more browns and grays. That is due to the melanin. So their body is naturally producing that color, and their feathers therefore are growing in this black mask pattern. Now, someone put it in the comments, they are correct. So there is a red tip there on the wing feather. And then there's also a yellow tip on the tail. So both of those would be due to the foods that they like to eat. Cedar waxwings love red berries, similar to the cardinal. And so they eat a lot of red berries, which contribute to how bright those red tips are. Same goes for the yellow tips, flowers, seeds, all of our typical kind of bird foods that cedar waxwing like to eat contribute to those colors. So I think y'all got it right. We have both melanin and carotenoids on this one bird, which is gorgeous.
Someone guessed maybe some strawberries. I don't know. We'll see. I think that we have some other questions coming in. So thank you, Sheridan, for teaching us just about 2 ways. There's a lot of ways the birds can get their colors. We just talked about 2 today, friends. And I was wondering if we could ask you a few more questions.
Of course, of course.
Now, some friends, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And I will try and ask those to Sheridan. I saw one that came in already, and someone was wondering, could a bird become a different color by eating a different colored food? So if, let's say the cardinal started eating shrimp or started eating the same flower as the goldfinch, would it turn pink or yellow?
So like you said, we only talked about 2 ways. And these 2 particular methods also have to do with their genetics. So while food intake and frequency and quantity can contribute to the shade of color, I wouldn't say a cardinal could eat blueberries and turn blue. He may just be less red because his body is not processing the normal pigment that they're used to. Okay. If that makes sense. Same with the flamingo. It's more or less more pale or more pink. He wouldn't turn a whole different color, which would be very cool. But yeah, it has to do with their genes and how they're processing the food that they're eating.
Yeah, so every bird's body processes their food differently and
Mhm.
only process it if to be a color if that's what their body is meant to do.
Right, right. If it fits
Okay.
into the puzzle piece, then they got it.
So, I have another question for you. Why do you love bird watching so much? What is so cool about it?
I think personally, I think birds are probably the easiest and most accessible bird, or well, sorry, see birds on the brain. It's easily an accessible animal to watch. Birds are everywhere. They can be in your backyard. You can see them at the park. You can see them at the playground. So they're really easy to kind of find and observe. They're also very responsive. So if you can put a bird feeder out, you can kind of bring them to you at a safe distance. And they're just exciting. They have a lot of calls. They have a lot of behaviors that are fun, a lot of colors, like we discussed. So I really like seeing all the beautiful creations that we have out here as far as birds are concerned, and getting my binoculars and going out there.
So they're all just real, there's so much variety that you
So
just
many types.
never
So
get bored with it.
people have tried, but I don't know if anyone's achieved seeing all the birds yet. There's always another one that you can see.
Yeah, definitely. Out of all the birds that you have seen, do you have a favorite bird?
Yeah, I would probably say my favorite bird would be the eastern towhee. This is a bird. Now, I live in Georgia. I don't know if I said that earlier. So I am in the South and I see towhees pretty frequently, but I think their range goes pretty high up. So they're a very charismatic bird. They have a very cool kind of chuckling call. Um, the males are black with they have a lot of black feathers with those melanocytes that we talked about, and then a little brown and a little white. And then the females are a little lighter brown with a tan and a white. So that's probably my favorite bird.
Wow, thank you for sharing. Some friends may have to go and look that one up, and we'll write that one. You said the Eastern Towie, right?
Yes.
I'll write that one in the chat for everyone in case they want to look it up. Now we had a question, another question come in about cardinals.
Mhm.
Um, do why does if both female and male cardinals are eating the same food, eating the same berries, why are the males more red than the
Yes,
females?
that is a really great question. So that kind of goes back to the genes answer. Um, Cardinals are a word called dimorphic, which means that the male and the female do not look the same. That's all that means. So the males are this bright red color because they're trying to attract the females. Females are looking for the brighter the red, it kind of indicates the more nutritionally healthy that male is, or maybe he has a really good food spot and she needs to, get in on that food spot. So it kind of goes back to those genes. Male cardinals have a goal with their red, and they're trying to win the best mate. So I think
And
that's
that's
it.
how it is for a lot of male and
Mhm.
female birds is the male has really bright colors or a lot of details on their feathers, and then the female, that's not their goal in life. They just need to their colors are usually a lot softer or duller, but
Yeah,
still beautiful, just not as bright as their male
exactly. It's
counterparts.
genetically advantageous for males to be bright red.
Yeah, because then they get more partners to have families with.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
Great
Do we
question.
have any more questions that anyone wants to ask? Or I will ask our last question. Wait just a few more seconds. And okay. Oh, let's see.
Yeah, there you go.
What? Yeah, we have some. So we have one question is what's a good seed mixture for cardinal and a robin redbreast? So maybe if friends are looking to attract some of those birds maybe
Mhm.
to a bird feeder, do we
Yeah.
know what kinds of foods they like?
Yeah. So a good standard seed is black oil sunflower seeds.
Okay.
Most all seed eating birds love those. I try and mix in a couple oats, just for variety. Nobody wants to eat the exact same thing every day. As well as, like we talked about earlier, berries are really good. So just kind of giving your birds a variety to pick through is usually what I recommend. A couple nuts like almonds or peanuts that are unsalted and unsweetened are a good choice. So yeah, I would go with those.
Okay, and do you know how can we find out when it's okay or not okay to be feeding birds? Because sometimes
Mhm.
um, we are not supposed to because there might be a illness going around amongst birds.
Yeah.
Do you know where friends could look to find out?
Yeah, so a lot of local either zoos or nature conservancies in your area kind of keep up with these things. Zoos have vets, and at these vet offices, they keep track of any illnesses that are going around. Another great way is to, if you do have a bird feeder, kind of pay attention to the birds that are coming to your feeder. Sometimes you can see these illnesses. At which point you want to, if you do see a bird that kind of looks a little sick, maybe his eyes a little swollen, or maybe he's missing a couple feathers, what your job would be in that case is to take your feeder, take it down, clean it out so that way no other birds get sick, because you don't know if it's contagious or not. So you want to clean your feeder, make sure everybody is safe, and then you can put it back up in a couple days. So,
Okay, thank you so much, Sheridan. I have learned a lot. I think our friends have too. We are going to start a bird art project right now, and we might send you some more questions
yeah.
after our program. But we will hopefully see you again another time, maybe outside bird watching.
Yes, yes, I would love to.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Let's say goodbye to our friend Sheridan.
Hey,
See you next
everybody.
time.
Thank you.
All right, friends. So I saw some more questions come in and I might be able to answer some of them for you, but right now I want to make sure we get started with our art project. So please start getting your materials ready. You are going to need some colorful paper today. You are going to need a glue stick today and some markers. Let's see, let me make sure you all can see me well. There we go. And you're going to need a plain piece of paper or our our bird coloring sheet. So either a plain piece of paper or a bird coloring sheet. Our bird coloring sheet is actually has a bird shape that is inspired by an art piece in the National Museum of African American History and Culture, my museum. And it is by African American artist Clementine Hunter, who really loved to paint birds and things that were going on around her. So we made that shape inspired by that bird. But today, if you are not using that coloring sheet, no problem, because we are going to, and I'm going to, trace a bird shape on a piece of paper. So we're going to trace our hands, and our hands today are going to be birds. So this part, our thumb, is going to be the head of the bird. This part is going to be the body of the bird, and our fingers are going to become the wings or the tail of our bird. Some friends might have done this before for maybe a turkey project before. So we are going to do this. You can move your fingers into different ways. You could trace it in all spread out, some together, some apart, any way you want to, and put it on your paper. If you have someone with you today, it'd be great to have a partner to do this with. When you are tracing your hand, you're not going to trace your wrist. You're just going to trace around this part. So you can take a crayon. That might be good if you don't want to draw on your hand accidentally with a marker. But I'm going to be using a marker. So right in the middle of your paper, thank you to our friends who are waiting for us with their coloring sheets. And you are going to trace all around your hand, your thumb, your fingers, and now I stopped at my wrist. So I stopped at my wrist and I have that open space, and now I'm going to close that space just with the little line. So now I have my shape. And on your shape, you can add a beak or in an eye. So I'm gonna put an eye and then the beak, which is the nose and mouth of a bird. Now, some birds have different shaped beaks. You can just do a triangle today if you want. You can make this an imaginary bird, or it could be inspired actually by some of the birds that are in our museum collections across the Smithsonian. I just gonna keep it imaginary and make my bird look like that. Once you have your bird shape, we are gonna start making some feathers. And our feathers are going to be, I thought, could be a little bit inspired by parrots, since parrots have so many different colors in their feathers. You are going to take your colorful pieces of paper that you have with you today, whatever colors you choose, and we are going to tear them into pieces. There's going to be they're going to turn into feathers. I think I'm going to choose a little bit of brown, a little bit of black, maybe some blue, and some green. I think I'm going to choose these 4 colors. Now, while you are tearing them, you can tear them in a lot of different ways. You could just tear little pieces. You could try and tear long pieces, long strips like that. You could tear even smaller, even make them all smaller. So think about what colors you want to use on your bird, and we're gonna just spend a few minutes just tearing up some pieces. And if you want, you can share with me in the chat which colors you are using. You might be maybe inspired by our pink flamingos we looked at, or the cardinals, or maybe my feathers, which I have on today, which is blue and pink and purple. And you can see we have some objects on our screen from the Smithsonian American Art Museum and from the National Postal Museum. That one in the middle is actually, if you can tell, it is actually looks like a pigeon that's in a parrot costume. It's not actually a parrot there. Now, unlike the birds we learned about today, parrots actually get their colors in different ways, even different from the melanin and different from the foods that they eat. There's actually a specific pigment in parrot feathers that they have that helps them to be protected from bacteria or germs. So their pigments are meant for that purpose, but I'm sure they also help them get mates and camouflage wherever they live, which is usually in warmer areas. But there's a couple parrots that live in like mountains or in colder places. Okay, does everyone have a good amount of feathers? You can always be adding some more. I have, I'll show you. I've made all these so far. And okay, I think now our first step is going to be to add some tail feathers or some wing feathers you might want to add. Now, do you know what kind of bird we are looking at right now from our different Smithsonian collections? This is one that I know a lot of friends have probably seen before. Can you guess it? It is a peacock, and we have a piece of peacock art from the National Museum of Asian Art as well as the American Art Museum. And I thought this would be a great inspiration for us to add some tail feathers. So if you have a tail on your bird, you might want to tear some kind of longer strips, and glue those onto the tail. So I'm just going to put some glue on my tail, and then I'm going to start adding some long pieces, and I'll show you all in just a moment. I made some earlier too. And our art, similar to the artists that are showing, we're showing from different Smithsonians today, is just kind of our own creation. It doesn't have to look exactly like a bird you might see really at the zoo or when you go bird watching. So it just can look however you want it to look. Look at, I started adding some long feathers, some long tail feathers on my bird. And we're making colorful birds today. I didn't want anyone to forget that black and brown are some really beautiful colors to also add to a colorful bird. So I'm going to do that on my tail there. So I'm wondering if at the Asian Art Museum, they do have a lot of artworks that have peacocks in them, because peacocks are actually live throughout most of, or different parts of Asia. That's where they're most commonly seen. There is one country in Africa, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in which there's one kind of peacock that lives there, but most peacock types live in different parts of Asia. All right, I think we might be, oh, I'm going to show everyone what we're doing here. And if you can't see me on the screen, just try and split your screen so you have speaker view and your and our slide on the page on your screen. So I've been just doing a little bit of glue, and then in the glue spot I am just putting my torn piece on top of it and pressing it down so it really sticks. Okay, let's try and add some other feathers. And I'm gonna start adding some of my smaller pieces, my greens and blues, which actually I guess are kind of like peacock colors. And what you can do is you're adding that to the body, the head, and the wing. For the head, you could actually, I forgot to show you all actually, this is what we're going for, is filling in our bird with all different colors. But on the head, on mine, actually colored it in with marker because it was a little hard to add small pieces to, but we're gonna be trying to fill it all the way in. Fill our bird shape all the way in. So I'm gluing on my body, and then I'm going to take a couple pieces of my smaller feather pieces and just push them on there. Like that. Oops. Stick. There we go. All right. What colors are you all using? Are you using more like parrot colors, which can be so many different colors on one bird, or are you doing just a couple colors? On mine, I'm realizing mine's starting to look a little like a peacock, but did you actually know that the peacock is just the male of a peacock? Peacock is a male, but the female is called a peahen. And the name of all of the birds together, males and females, is peafowl. And actually then the babies are called peachicks. So they all end with something a little different. They start with P, but they end with peacock, peahen, peafowl, peachicks. So there's a few different things you might call them. And surprisingly, I mean, maybe not so surprisingly, they are a little bit of a heavy bird. They can't really fly very much. They can't fly very high off the ground, and they can't really fly very far either. They kind of just can go short distances for a little bit here and there, but not too far. Some people are saying they're using a lot of different colors. So they're just making a rainbow kind of bird, which I think is really beautiful. Oopsies. Okay. Some of my feathers are starting to come off. Make sure you use a good amount of glue on them. Okay. Slowly but surely, I'm adding them. Let's look at some other colorful birds in our Smithsonian collections. In our page right here, we have some objects from the National Museum of American History, the National Postal Museum, the Smithsonian American Art Museum, our Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum in New York, and my museum, the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Now, some of these birds are seem to be a little abstract. I can't exactly tell what kinds of birds they are, but can you all recognize any of those birds? One we did learn about today. Looks like I'm going to need to tear some more colors for my bird feathers. There's a cardinal on there, and then that bird that is right next to the cardinal, which is like a yellow and black bird, is actually called an African golden oriole, which I have never seen before in real life, at least. That's one of the awesome things about museums and zoos is they help us to see things that might not be where we live. And we can learn about other people and other places and other animals that aren't necessarily in our neighborhood. Okay. Now I'm almost getting to the end of filling out my whole bird. And maybe you all are too. Some things you can do is you could keep adding and adding. You could cut out your bird and maybe hang it on a string if you'd like to. You could just keep it in one piece of paper, but you could also be a little creative and have it flying over somewhere in your house. I'm trying to fill in all of the spots with feathers, because pretty much for most birds, they're all covered in feathers in every part of them. There are some birds that don't have feathers in certain parts of their bodies, like vultures. They don't have feathers on their heads, just on their whole bodies. Okay, last few pieces I'm adding to mine. Do you all know any more birds that have different colors than the ones that we saw today? I know my favorite bird is a pigeon, and it has mainly just gray and black and white on its body, but then on its neck it has purple and green shimmery colors on its neck. This is how mine's coming along. I think I'm going to add color to the head with a marker. I think that's going to be easiest for me. All right. Now, of course, if you are still wanting to add to your bird, you can. But right now, we are coming to the end of our program today for Blackbirders Week. And let me show you that's my final bird. I decided to make it look like a peacock. I guess I really liked the peacock today. I would love to see what colors you all have added to yours, what you chose for your birds today. If you would like to share it with us, please send us an email or share it on social media using the hashtag NMAAHCkids or hashtag Blackbirders Week. To continue celebrating Blackbirders Week, we will have another program on Friday where we will learn what makes everyday birds really extraordinary. I really hope to see you all there. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a very happy Blackbirders Week. Bye, friends.